Kids are going back to school next week, and many of them may be expressing worry about the return to the classroom. Back to school anxiety is normal at this time of year, but if it continues in your child, there's steps and help that you can get. Joining us now from My Winnipeg Therapist is licensed clinical social worker Kevin Richardson. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Rochelle.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now,
thanks
kids,
for having me on.
Well, anytime. Kids have probably been talking about their worry already. It's not just going to happen the week before school. It's probably been happening progressively at the later part of the summer, which I know from experience it is indeed what's happening. What are signs of anxiety?
Well, I think some of the ways that it shows up, and again, depends on developmental age, but we can certainly, I would watch for things like irritation, where kids seem a little bit, their mood is a bit off. Certainly avoidance around talking about school or getting ready. Like sometimes kids who are looking forward to school will be wanting to get their, the school supplies ready and things like that. Kids that are, having more anxiety will probably show things like what we call avoidance, right? They don't want to talk about it, especially if you bring it up, and they say, oh, I don't want to talk about that, or phrases like, I hate school, and then that's really kind of opens up the door to explore.
And so as a parent, what should you do?
Well, I think as a parent, one of the things that I encourage, clients that I'm working with when they're dealing with, issues around their children is be that safe space. So that's kind of being intentional as a parent. I want to be that safe space for my child. And so that really, involves acknowledging that the child is the expert of their experience, not life and not the solutions and all that, but they're the expert of their experience. And so you want to learn from them what exactly it is that is bothering them as much as you can in terms of detail. Because as parents, we want to jump to solutions, we want to help them, because we don't like when they're hurting or afraid, right? So we kind of want to avoid that a bit.
So just listen is the main message, right?
Absolutely.
Let them just express themselves.
Rochelle, that's absolutely right. Listen. And then part of the techniques around that is really you want to validate their experience, right? So at the emotional level, okay, like being afraid in that situation, yeah, that makes sense. I could see that. Or you really want to even show examples. Yeah, when I was in school, so you're kind of normalizing, right? Oh yeah, when I was in school, I was afraid of this. It might not be the exact same thing, but so validating that makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that. And
encourage them to talk to you about their worries, their fears, of course, is a big part of that. Once school has begun and they're in school, how do you know when their anxiety is getting worse and that they need help?
Absolutely, great question. So one of the things you want to do, again, is watching their behavior. And every parent, they know their child. Yeah. And so, how is their behavior? So their behaviors is a big indicator more than what they're going to tell you first. So I'd watch for that. Are they just dumping their backpack at the door and running to their room, and just kind of scrolling or going on their screens? Right. I'd watch for things like that. When you do check in with them, how was school today? Oh, never mind. Or, oh, it was fine. I'd watch, you want to follow up with that, things like that. Okay. So I'd watch for things like irritation, because anxiety is fear. Fear is a protective defense. We're gonna be more into that irritation, annoyance, or anger. Yeah. So you want to watch for those. If they're angry, probably some fear behind that. Something's going on. Because it's protective.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing this. Good advice for parents before kids go back to school. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle.